Hi, I'm Lisa Rogers, and today I'm going to share my picture book, 16 Words, William Carlos Williams and the Red Wheelbarrow. It's published by Schwartz Wade Books, and it's illustrated by CHUCK GROENINK. I'm going to read it to you with the permission of Schwartz Wade Books. Thank you for listening. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book. This book is really about noticing. William Carlos Williams was a poet, but he was also a doctor. And he took time out of his busy doctoring to look out the window, notice, wonder. He paid attention to his patients, and he thought about their lives. And one of his patients was this man, Thaddeus Marshall, the owner of the wheelbarrow in what became William Carlos Williams' famous poem, The Red Wheelbarrow. The two of them lived and worked in the same town, Rutherford, New Jersey. Their paths intersected in many ways. And we know that William Carlos Williams cared a lot for Thaddeus Marshall. So with that connection between the two of them in mind, I started to write this story. I hope you'll enjoy it, and I'll be pointing out some of the things I thought about as I wrote it and some of the pieces of the illustrations as I read. So when you look at the cover that CHUCK GROENINK beautifully created for this book, you can see that William Carlos Williams is here in his office, typing on his typewriter, while Mr. Marshall is outside doing his job. I was thinking about the importance of the two, their jobs. These end papers are beautiful because they evoke the garden that Mr. Marshall tended. He sold vegetables to his neighbors. The illustrations are so tender and really have a quiet joy to them. I dedicated this book to my family because they have helped me so much in my writing journey. Look out the window. What do you see? You can take a moment to do that right now. Think about what you see. If you are Dr. William Carlos Williams, you see a wheelbarrow, a drizzle of rain, chickens scratching in the damp earth. Perhaps Dr. Williams is waiting to read a thermometer. Maybe he has just written a prescription. Or if his young patient feels up to a game, shuffled a deck of playing cards. He looks up, looks out, and notices. Do you see what he notices out the window? The wheelbarrow belongs to Mr. Thaddeus Marshall. Dr. Williams is the Marshall's family doctor. Day after day, Mr. Marshall picks up his tools, a watering can, a rake, a trowel. He cares for his garden at 11 Elm Street in Rutherford, New Jersey. You might look for the splashes of red throughout this book. Stepping around his chickens, he turns the soil, pulls weeds, harvests greens. He plucks ripe vegetables and carries them to his wheelbarrow. Then he lifts the wheelbarrow's handles and balances it on its single tire. His son Milton shoos the chickens away. William Carlos Williams said he liked Thaddeus Marshall's son Milton almost as much as he liked Thaddeus. So you can see there was a tender relationship. And Mr. Marshall pushes his wheelbarrow through the streets of Rutherford. He depends on the wheelbarrow to carry the vegetables he sells to his neighbors. Do you see anyone in this house here, this door? I can tell you Rutherford, New Jersey still looks just like that. So I know CHUCK GROENINK did a lot of research for his illustrations. Day after day, Dr. Williams also picks up his tools, a stethoscope, syringes, a blood pressure cuff, a thermometer, and more. He packs his black doctor's bag and lifts it by its two handles. He cares for patients in his office at 9 Ridge Road. He cares for patients at their homes. He bandages wounds, checks temperatures, and listens to heartbeats. He treats children with measles and chicken pox. He brings many babies, at least 3,000, into this world. Do you see the dad peeking? Dr. Williams depends on his doctor's bag to carry the tools he needs. Along with his stethoscope and syringes, he carries a pen for writing prescriptions, a pen for crafting poems. Writing poems brings Dr. Williams joy, and he fits in his writing around his doctoring. If he's in his office, he uses the time between appointments to tap on his typewriter. He writes about trees, a fire engine, cats, and plums. He chooses the words for his poetry as carefully as he examines his patients. Right, of course, the word choice in a poem and in a picture book is crucial and very carefully done. Now you might want to take a close look at this page. There's a lot to look at here. You can see downtown Rutherford with all its shops. You can see the people who have bought vegetables from Mr. Marshall. There's even a boy reading a book up here. If he's making a house call, he scribbles poems on his prescription pad. He writes about his town and the people who live there. Do you see another bit of red in this illustration? Dr. Williams visits 11 Elm, where Mr. Marshall and his wife, Alice, raise their sons, Milton, Hiram, Victor, Leon, and Thaddeus Jr. Perhaps he is there to set a broken arm or to soothe a high fever. Perhaps he is caring for Mr. Marshall, who has been ill. You can see Milton in the family photographs. Dr. Williams pauses. He looks out the bedroom window toward the garden. He sees rain falling. All of these photographs that Chuck Groenink put in this illustration have meaning for Mr. Marshall. It falls on the chickens scrabbling in the dirt, their feathers dingy white. It falls on Mr. Marshall's wheelbarrow, red and weathered, sturdy and strong. The rain streaks the window, soaks the garden, drips into the roots of Mr. Marshall's vegetable plants, helping them grow. Dr. Williams grasps his pen. He begins to write. He writes of what he notices: the wheelbarrow, the chickens, the rain, the yard. He writes a poem using just 16 words. Those 16 words do not describe Mr. Marshall's chicken coop or the train rattling nearby. They do not describe Mr. Marshall hefting that wheelbarrow or the aches and pains he suffers from stooping to care for his plants. They do not describe Mr. Marshall's life of work or caring or love, but somehow they say just that. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. In the author's note, there's more about both Thaddeus and William Carlos Williams. There are some other books you might want to read about William Carlos Williams and some of my favorite William Carlos Williams poems for children. Thank you so much for listening to my reading, and I hope you enjoyed it.